dialogue mode, and that would be useful. When I go to the participants, the rule of democracy is the shorter is each individual contribution, greater is the number of people who can participate. So that is the rule of thumb on which we will operate. So I will probably try and guide it there. I will look for hands and try to accommodate as many. We stop here at 12:30. So that is, as far as resource allocation is concerned, we have resource of 90 minutes, out of which we are late by 4 minutes and 3 minutes. Over to Peter K.
Okay, thank you very much, Atik. Fortunately, my voice is back today, but it's still not 100%, so I hope that you can hear me. Now, the role of the provocateur is to provoke and challenge, but hopefully not send you out in the streets to throw bricks and Molotov cocktails. I don't want to provoke you that much, but nevertheless, I do want to make some of you angry, to make some of you question your own beliefs, and also to challenge the panelists that we have here in terms of their own knowledge in relation to vertical integration of different governance levels. And the first provocative statement that I would like to make is that adaptation is really nothing more than sustainable development done well in a changing climate context. The region has been and always has been faced by many development challenges. Access to water, sanitation, livelihoods, transport, energy, poverty alleviation, etc. So how will adaptation actually change the way we approach these existing development challenges? The second provocative statement is that adaptation is in many ways simply an extension of existing disaster prevention, reduction and management regimes as it applies to extreme weather events. So what can we learn from existing disaster management approaches to guide our understanding of mainstreaming adaptation? The third statement is that adaptation is primarily a local level intervention, and governments should avoid too much top-down intervention. Adaptation involves simple measures like zoning to avoid development in vulnerable locations, climate-proofing infrastructure, and even household-level actions like building houses on stilts in areas that are subject to flooding. So how do we ensure that the honeypot of the billions of dollars of money that's promised for adaptation actually percolates down to the local level rather than gets absorbed by national, regional and global level government actors who seem to spend all of their time meeting rather than acting? The fourth provocative statement is that climate change is, or seems to be creating a whole new class of climate change specialists, specialists in quotation marks, who have transferred from many other disciplines, from sociology, from meteorology, from agriculture, from transport. So how do we ensure that they have adequate development training and experience? And how do we ensure that those who will be responsible for implementation of adaptation programs actually have an adequate development background and experience, and we don't end up with a whole bunch of quasi-experts commanding all of the adaptation funds and misusing those funds in the process. The fifth provocative statement is that the lack of vertical integration between all levels of government and the integration of multiple stakeholders, including civil society and the private sector, is a major impediment to effective implementation of adaptation. So what can we do to ensure more effective implementation by concentrating on this issue of vertical integration, and who should be responsible for ensuring that this integration takes place. And then in relation to science, to policy, to action, this is another example of vertical integration barriers. How do we ensure that adaptation policies are backed by sound science, including the downscale models that Tsukuba University is involved in, from global to local levels? And how do we ensure that effective policies are actually translated into well-resourced actions, and that those actions result in desired outcomes? The seventh provocative statement is that adaptation is often seen as an admission of failure of the mitigation negotiations, rather than an opportunity for renewed emphasis on sustainable development. And in fact, one of the reasons for the delay in getting global action programs in relation to adaptation has been that governments didn't want to take the pressure off mitigation and the funding of mitigation. How can we ensure that adaptation is viewed at all levels as an opportunity for better development, rather than an admission of failure or just compensation for the past sins of developed countries? Finally, humans have been adapting to changed climate conditions since the dawn of man. In principle, there is no difference today, although the pace of change may be greater. The problem of vertical integration of governance has also been an issue since the dawn of government, from the Roman Forum down to the current US Senate. So what's really different about the governance arrangements today in relation to mainstreaming adaptation compared to the long-standing problems of vertical integration in governance arrangements? What can we learn from the past governance challenges that will guide current vertical integration challenges? Climate change will make every aspect of our lives different, as Atik has said. However, human ingenuity and our very large brains have stood us in good stead for thousands of years. We've always adapted, and we will do so again. We can adapt either in a purposeful manner or by reacting to climate change damage after the fact. Prevention and avoidance of damage are always better than reacting after the fact. But can we be wise enough to put in place governance arrangements to act now rather than react later? What are the urgent, immediate steps that we need to take to establish an effective vertical integration of governance mechanisms to address adaptation? What are the impeding barriers that need to be swept away? Who needs to step up and take greater responsibility for making sure that these changes take place? Do we need to wait until the billions of dollars promised by the Fast Start Agreement as part of the Copenhagen Accord are available? If so, I wouldn't hold your breath. Or can we start now? Finally, I would encourage our speakers to stick to the time limits so that we can encourage much more interaction with the floor. We don't want to come across as the experts. You are all the experts, because you will all have to learn how to adapt in many, many ways. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. That, in my list, that's about 10, 11 points, but pretty heavy stuff. So we'll get back to that. The order in which I'd like Harjit, you can start, and then it could be Nilofer, then it could be Punna, then Nilofer, and then over to Hiroshi after that. So could I start with Harjit? Again, time is of the essence.
Okay. Thanks, Dr. Atik and Peter. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sure, Peter, whether it was easy for you to frame these questions or whether it's going to be easy for us to answer these questions. I don't know what's easier, what's difficult. But we are definitely going to try to answer some of these questions. You want us to answer all of them or one by one?
You can do each and every one of them in 3 minutes.
Okay. You know, when you say that adaptation is nothing less or very much equal to sustainable development, now how do we define sustainable development? Sustainable development essentially means that we are able to sustain our lives and livelihoods, you know, in the changing environment, in the changing situations, right? We are able to absorb the shocks, different kind of stress, and we continue to grow to the next level of development, right? That's largely the essence. I'm not going to talk about the technical definition of sustainable development. But when you look at the challenges of climate change, and as Atik and you have already pointed out, the one thing that we are very sure of with climate change is that nothing can be sure now the way we are moving forward. So that's the only thing that is certain. There is nothing going to be certain in the next few years. So the whole factoring in that kind of planning in our sustainable development model is going to be essential. I don't think we have been preparing much for that. We thought that we know what's going to happen. We have been looking at past trends and we have been planning for development. And we have been doing pretty okay wherever we tried to plan and we tried to do things well. But the whole uncertainty is going to push us to develop some new models. We look at poverty level indicators, you know, people living below poverty line who are earning $1 a day, $2 a day. Now, can we really stick to that line, which you know, defines who are poor people? That itself is going to be difficult. Perhaps people who are earning $5 a day are going to be earning less than $1 a day if a major disaster strikes them, and that's going to wash away all their resources. So the uncertainty that's going to come, I think we need to define and redefine who is vulnerable. And as we all understand that poor people are most vulnerable. So the poorest and the excluded and the level above, and who all have the power to cope with the changing environment, with the changing situations, and do they have enough resources in terms of knowledge, resources in terms of you know, money, also connections, also the political resources, so that they can get support when they need it. I think all that need to be understood. Do they have that cushion to fight with the uncertainties that they are going to face? And the relationship of sustainable development with ecosystem also gets emphasized. So I think it's in many ways, yes, you can say adaptation is very much sustainable development, but the new challenges that climate change brings in also need to be accounted. So certain things are new, and certain old things have been, old traditional conventional things have been re-emphasized. How do we have to converge many of our strategies and bring everything together, because the situation is going to be very, very complex. So our approach to the development, I think, needs to change. The whole time scale, as I was saying, we always look the past trends and then we define development. Now we are looking at climate models. What's going to happen 30 years, 40, 50 years hence? So can we start devising strategies so that we can fight those challenges that are going to come on our way? You talked about the adaptation being a local level intervention. I totally agree. You know, the way microclimatic changes that are going to happen. So more and more communities, more and more local level people need to be prepared. But you need policy level support. You need larger programs. You need different body of knowledge, creating new knowledge, research institutions, and the linkages of that new knowledge being generated. And that you also, Atik said, linking it with local people. How do you connect that? When we talk about early warning information about cyclones or about floods, I think early warning information, the role of Department of Meteorology now needs to be enhanced. Even day-to-day weather conditions needs to be shared with people. Our old agriculture extension services need to be much more efficient than we withdraw